Hey guys, so I've been meaning to do a collection video for a long time, and I get a lot of requests on it, and I've actually filmed it a couple times, and I just never upload it. I'm never satisfied because there's just too much. The video is going to go too long. So I'm going to try to do this again and be as quick as possible. I'm not going to go over the real guns that I own, the firearms, just my airsoft guns. This is an airsoft gun collection. All of these I pretty much build myself. Most of these aren't stock. The only thing that's ever stock is like pistols. I have a couple, pistol gas blowbacks that are stock, but all the rifles, HPA or AEG, are upgraded pretty heavily. So I'm just going to start by going over all the stuff that I have in the shelf, and then I'm going to continue to the rifles. And I have a bunch of just extra parts and stuff up here. A lot of this is trash. It's just finding the time to go through it and, throw the trash away. Something I need to do. But continuing, I'll just go ahead and start over here. I got 3 or 4 of these AK high caps for my AK. I've got some speed loaders. I got some tracers. My local shop sells these for pretty cheap actually, but they only sell .2s. So there's only .2 tracers. So when I do like tracer videos or I just want to shoot out in the backyard when it's dark and have some fun, I will just shoot 2s out of it. But if I were to ever actually put a tracer on any of these guns, I'd probably want to use 2.5s, so I'd probably have to get a different brand, or just deal with 2s. If I'm using tracers, I'm most likely going to be using it indoors anyways, so 2s might be acceptable. But I generally like to use 2.5s as my lightest BB in most of my guns, except for like 1 or 2. Like 1. I have my .25s on this shelf, which these are 2.5s as well. I've got my .2s down here. These are .2s as well. Put those, stuff them in there. And then the bottom shelf I have .3s. So those are the weights that I use, 2s, 2.5s, and 3s. Every now and again I use like 3 2s or 3 6s. But I don't use those very often because they're just really expensive. It's not worth spending that much if you ask me. The .3s that I get are like $16 for 5,000, which is pretty much the maximum I like to pay for BBs, to be honest. And these are pretty dang good quality. They're Airsoft Alpha. This is a local shop to me, and I get all my BBs there. I love them. I have some, like, these G&G .33s that I had for my sniper back before I sold that. I've got a couple open bag of BBs over here that I grab from when I go to shoot, just sitting over there. I have a stack of mags here that are all, like, either broken or used mags, or a lot of these are even my brother's that I've just stacked here, and he doesn't really sell anything, so I don't know. Just a bunch of random mags. Over here I got my mag brand Vietnam style with the mag pulls. I've got my MP5 mid caps. They are Elite, sorry, not Elite Force. The Elite Force ones are awful. They're Cyma and King Arms. They're just a mixture. They're both like come from the same factory. They're both really good. They hold 100 rounds. These hold a little over 100, about 120. I have 3 SR25 high caps for my SR25. Hold about 300, 350. I've got 5 Scorpion Evo mags, mid caps, all 75 rounds. And then I have 6 of these Mac 11 mags. And then I have my KWA Mac 11 up here. This thing is collecting dust. As you can see, this gun is junk. I am never going to go back to gas blowback guns in general. They're extremely unreliable compared to HPA and AEGs. It's not even worth going out and playing because you're just going to run into issues. So this gun just does not work. In fact, if anybody wants to buy like 5 of these magazines, I'll sell them for $25 a piece if you buy 5. So you do the math on that. I'd like to keep 1 with the gun. So if you've got a KWA Mac 11 and you like it and you want a bunch of mags, let me know. Moving along over here, starting with some of my guns. This is a KWA M93 Raffica. I have 5 of the 32 rounders that are all HPA tapped. Again, 5 of those. This does have safe semi 3-round burst. I run this with the HPA here. In fact, I'll fire a couple shots off. I do run this thing a little bit higher on PSI. See, we're at like 80 on this, so it's going to not sound quite so good. But you're going to have to just bear with me on that because I'm not going to change the PSI for each individual gun. This will just give you an idea, though. So So pretty cool. And then full auto. It's pretty solid. I run it at about 100 psi, and it does about 360 FPS or so with a .2, 360, 370 at 100 psi. So I'm getting some pretty good energy out of that, and that's what I would use pretty much at like an outdoor field. I could crank it down to 90 for indoor for 350, but it still shoots very, very good and cycles really nicely at 90 psi as well. But I like to run 100, and I've used this outdoors a couple times, and actually shoots pretty dang far. I generally don't like KWA because of their buckings, but if you keep it dry and you don't get lube on it, it will not swell, so you won't run into problems with the bucking. And I run the HPA, so it's a nice dry air, so I don't get lube up in there to make my bucking swell, and then it'll completely ruin the pistol basically, because it'll shoot like crap after that. Moving on, I have a KWA M9. So this is a pretty solid pistol as well. I have one propane mag, but the gun uses the 32 rounders, so I have HPA for that. I think I run this a little lower PSI, I think like 90, and it does about the same FPS. 90 PSI does like 350, 360 with the 2, and then I use 2.5s in this and 2.5s in that as well. I remember back in the day, this gun used to be so realistic to me, and then now I grab this thing, my M9, and the KWA feels like a freaking toy now, because it is a toy compared to the real thing. Like, it's just pretty funny. But back in the day when I was a kid, I thought that the KWA gas pullbacks were super awesome and super realistic. Next down here, I've got the WEXDM. I actually have two of these. Long story short, I bought them both for 50 a piece. I got them from overseas from KY Airsoft when they were having a sale. Now shipping was expensive, but in the end with shipping I was spending about 70 a piece when they were retailing for about 110. So I was saving like 40 bucks per pistol. So I bought two, and then I bought a spare mag. So basically I have 3 of the 25 rounders. In fact, these might hold more than 25, around there, 25, 26. They are HPA tapped, all 3. I did have to modify the base plates for them. These are the WE Tech HPA valves, not the CQB Russian, but they're just as good. They're CNC'd. They're actually black, which I kind of like the look of that. I'm just going to cycle it. This gun likes to run actually pretty low PSI. This is 80. I like to run this at 90, but it still cycles pretty good. It's just a little low. This gun shoots very low feet per second. This gun's probably, I use 2.5s. It's probably 270, 260 with 2.5s at 90 PSI, which is under a joule. So, very low powered pistol, but it shoots pretty accurately, and I got them for so cheap. Lastly, I have a CO2 M9 that I've had for years and years. It's a HFC lower receiver with a KJW upper, and I mix match parts, and it actually shoots really good. I'm using a KWC magazine with a KJW feed lip. Like, this is a hack gun, but it functions completely fine. This is never something I'd play in game, though. This is just a plinker for the backyard. But it works really good. I actually shot it not too long ago. It shoots very hard, too. It shoots like 390 with a .2 because it is CO2. That's the first couple shots. It settles down to about 380. But still, 380 is pretty good for a blowback pistol. And 2.5s is what I use in this. And it's getting some pretty good joules. It's like 1.45, I think, with 2.5s, which is up where rifles normally are. I have propane over here, got a bunch of batteries and CO2 cartridges, chargers down here, lubricant, and just like some gloves and random crap on the bottom shelves. Okay, so now we're going to completely move over to my rifles. So the first one that I'm going to grab back here is basically my least upgraded gun and cheapest. This is a Avengers M4, so these are using the S&T gearboxes, the new S&Ts, and they have a micro switch MOSFET that uses a magnet, very similar to the Ares, and very nice out of the box. These guns retail for about 120 to 160, depending on the version, and they're one of the best guns out of the box for that price point. I would rather buy this than a combat machine, like the SRXL. This is cheaper by a decent amount. Like this version, I think it's like 150 bucks. It's cheaper than the $190 or $200 G&G SRXL that comes with their MOSFET. And their MOSFETs are junk. So, and I've had this for quite a while, put a lot of rounds to it, and the MOSFET is just fine. So I really recommend these guns. But I put a Crytek flash hider on it, some KAC sights, a Magpul stock just because I had it laying around, and I bought this for my brother because he got it in a mystery box. It's got a stock pop-up barrel bucking. It has a JG Blue motor, pretty old one, but it is a low-stress gun. Comes with a Metal-Rack piston, so that I left that stock. Comes with bearings, fine. It's shooting about 360 with a .2, so not very high FPS with a low-stress gun. I did shorten the trigger pull, but it's not my favorite gun because it's slower. You can still spam it though. It does have SHS 18-to-1 spur and bevel gear and the stock sector, and again a high torque JG Blue motor, so it's pretty slow as far as rate of fire and trigger response. But it's still pretty good, guys. It really is. I very much enjoy shooting this gun. Airsoft's kind of turned into a backyard hobby for me because of all the bullcrap that's in the sport. It's not worth going and playing. Plus, my knee is completely destroyed. So it's not worth going out and getting yelled at constantly and getting people crying at me because I have much better guns than them. But it's also not worth busting my knee again. So I haven't played for a while. Pretty unfortunate, but I'm never going to sell these guns. Quite honestly, I'll probably have these for the rest of my life. Maybe. I don't know. That's probably a stretch. But yeah, I love these guns and still love shooting them in the backyard. I have been buying a little bit more firearms because I can go out and shoot those and be more of a hobby for me because Airsoft's kind of dead, unfortunately, because people just are so concerned about their feelings. When I go to the shooting range, I don't have to deal with people crying at me. PPSH by S&T, just like that one actually. So this is the S&T version. It's real wood with steel. It is is it a 2,000 round drum or 1,000? I cannot remember. I upgraded this slightly. This only functions on full auto, and unfortunately with all the airsoft drama, full auto is not allowed at most fields, so I have not been able to play with this yet. I think I used 2 5s in this, if I recall correctly, and it shoots about 180 feet. It only shoots 350 with a .2, and it shoots about 25 rounds a second. So I plug the battery in. I use a Matrix 11.1. Sorry, it's not Matrix. It's like WeTech, I think. It's an 11.1 2,000 milliamp. Still Tamiya. There is no MOSFET in here, but I did replace the micro switch because it was burnt out when I bought it, and I put a brand new one in there, and it's worked ever since. And I shoot this in my backyard probably at least once a month just for the fun of it. The semi-auto like stops working, so that's why I say it's a full auto main gun. I disabled the blowback. I put high-speed gears in here, a high torque motor, so it's a pretty low rate of fire gun and a pretty low power setup. I have a Garter SP110 in here, and again it shoots 350 with the 2. You know, Metal-Rack piston, and this battery is starting to die. Moving on to stuff that's a little bit more upgraded. We'll just keep with the World War II theme, and I'll just grab my Thompson. So this gun is a Cyma Thompson. I bought the drum for it. It actually only holds 500 rounds for a drum. It's not much, but the door's right here, so I can actually load this thing while it's in the gun, which is really cool. So if I'm running out, I can literally just grab BBs out of a bag and just dump them in there. It's actually really cool. I do use .2s in this gun, believe it or not. It shoots 390 feet per second with a .2, so it shoots pretty hard. I have a Lone X bucking in here, and it shoots about 200 feet. And if there's no wind, this thing shoots lasers. Like if it's, you know, like a very calm day, it'll just sail those BBs 200 feet. If there's wind, then sure, with .2s, it might take my BBs a little bit. But when I played with this twice, both times. It was totally calm day. We were in the woods, so the wind isn't as effective through the woods, and I was lasering people on full auto. This gun is kind of a full auto built gun, but the semi does work. then you know how fields are, like I said. So, specs on this, I have a metal rack piston, a ZCI M120, I already said metal rack piston, right? SHS 13-to-1 gears. It is an ASG 30K boost motor, 30 rounds a second out of this gun. I do not have a MOSFET, but the trigger contacts look in great shape because I actually had this open to clean it. I don't normally open these up, my guns up to clean them, but I just wanted to see how this was doing. And this thing's actually really easy to work on. So I did that last week, and it's in great shape. So the battery that I use is a 2000 milliamp Nanotech 15 to 25C. Just fits in the stock. Let's flip it over to single. Pretty good trigger response out of it. I mean, this gun is acceptable for semi. The PPSH is a no-go. But it is best on full auto. And that is 30 rounds a second. Which isn't crazy fast or anything, but it is shooting 390 feet per second. Next, we will do the ICS APE. So this gun, I'm not going to go over the externals or anything. I'm just going over the internals. I do have videos on most, if not all, these guns on my YouTube. So if you want to see like a gun on this, look up ICS APE Sure Shot Midget and it should come up. This gun is awesome. I love the ACR system. My favorite firearm style. Just to go over the internals, it has a ASG 40K boost. It has a retro arm straight trigger with short trigger pull mod with a BTC Spectre Mark II Bluetooth wired to the back. I did modify the stock to fit a, where'd it go? A 2000 milliamp nunchuck, 15 to 25C, the same size battery that was in the Thompson here, which I left the battery in there for some reason. This one, the one in the Thompson, is just a brick, but it's the same exact discharge and everything. So pretty solid battery. I can fit in both of those guns. 2000 milliamp is a good milliamp. Other internals, it's got SHS 1301s, again that 40K boost, SHS metal rack piston. It's got a, what is it, a ASG M125. It shoots 385 with a .2. With 2.5s, it shoots 1.4 joules and 200 feet easy. With 2.5s, I use 2.5s in it. I use 2s in the Thompson. Already said that. Semi-auto, I have it pre-cocked. So you can spam the trigger all you want. Keeps up. I have the stock hop up, but I do have a Lone X bucking in it. Full auto, 30 rounds a second, and pretty balanced build on this gun. Good rate of fire, good trigger response. Okay, moving on, I've got my big gun. So I don't really generally like the DMR sniper gameplay. It's not my play style, but I built this back when I hurt my knee like the 4th time, like 2 times ago. I built this because I kind of wanted to hang back a little bit and just kind of get used to maybe sniping a little bit. So I put this gun together. It's got a bunch of externals, let you look at those. It does have a foam filled suppressor, and when you take it off, it is very, very loud, and I'll actually test it on video for you. But as far as internals, it has a Falcon V12. Wow, V12s are crap, aren't they? No, not really. This thing is amazing. I did the Polar Star SR25 kit, spacer kit, which uses a nut back here and then the spacer. I used the Tap Airsoft SR25 V12 nozzle. It is bored out like a red nozzle. I use a Pro-Win with a Prometheus Purple, flat hopped with a Mad Bull aircraft aluminum inner barrel, or is it the Black Python? I think they're one and the same. I think it's a 601. It is cut right here, so it's actually not that long of a barrel. This thing shoots about 250 feet with .3s at about 1.85 joules with 3s is like the limit for most DMR for semi-auto at the fields that I play at. It is semi-locked. Of course, it does flip, but it's semi-locked because it's an HPA system. As far as internals into it, I have like upgrades. Oh, there's my battery. It's got a IGL America color. And then it's got a stock poppet and no QEV actually. So this thing has very few upgrades. The only thing that it has is the IGL and the SR25 nozzles. So this does eat through air. If I play with this gun, I'm going to use the 88 cubic inch tank here. So the big one, so it'll last me. But this thing has absolutely incredible performance. I have to run it at 90 PSI for 1.85 with threes, but this is 80, so it'll be probably a little quieter than normal, but test it. You can see, and I can fire it very fast. I can literally, because I shorten the trigger pull, I mean, look at that. Like, I can sit here and just, which is awesome. Now, I use threes, and I use high caps, and again, I'm shooting about 250 feet very accurately, and it's quiet as heck, and then if I take it off, it's very loud, as you can see there. So, continuing with the HPA guns, I have my Cyma Beta Project AK. This I bought from QS Airsoft. Shout out to him, he gave me a patch, also got my patch on there. I put a Magpul Battle Comp on here and a stubby grip, and that's it for the externals. This gun has a Polar Star F2 inside of it. Highly recommend that engine. I shortened the trigger pull, but it's still a little long. Those of you that work on AKs will know that it's kind of a nightmare to get the trigger pull to be like an M4. It's kind of impossible, but it is shorter, and the solenoid is really quiet. But you can spam the living crap out of the trigger. And then I only have it shooting at 25 rounds a second. Let me just hook this dang thing up. I have to run 120 or 110. 110 PSI gets me about 1.5 with threes. I do use threes with high caps. And it's like 110 PSI for that. So pretty high PSI, but it does shoot very good. So, very nice. It's such a clean gun as far as the sound. The F2 sounds so good. And full auto, 25 rounds a second. So, still some pretty decent rate of fire out of it. Next gun is a Scorpion Evo. So, this has a 3-prong flash hider on here with the adapter. As you can see, it uses different threads. So, it also has a hand stop, and other than that, it's plain on the outside. The upgrades are SHS metal rack piston. I have a ASG M115 spring, shoots 370. I also have a 350 spring right here that's cut. And then it's got SHS 1301s, stock steel bushing, stock high torque motor, and it does about 25 rounds a second, so decent rate of fire. I just left the motor stock because it still shoots decently fast. Semi-auto. Now, the MOSFET does have a delay, so I can't sit here and spam the trigger, which is unfortunate for me, but it's still a really nice micro switch. It's really, still really nice. Can't deny that. 3-round burst. Pretty quick, actually. Full auto. Solid 25 rounds a second. Again, I have 5 of these magazines. They hold 75 rounds, and they have the bolt cutoff system here, which is just beautiful. It's an awesome system. The battery that I use in it, I apologize I didn't mention that. It is a 25 to 50C, so it's a higher discharge, but it's a 1300, and it's a nanotech, and it fits down inside of there totally fine. I only have one of those. I really do need to get another one. Actually, this is a brand new one. I just got this. Next gun is the trigger gun. So this gun loves to trigger people. Literally, that is what triggers people. Like, people are so petty that a trigger triggers them. So I got my patch on there, totally plain on the outside, besides the AAC muzzle brake, which I actually glued on there because the Elite Force plastic body M4 does not have threads on the front. So I ripped off the orange tip, and then I glued the new one on there, and it's never popped off, and it sounds very menacing. I think that's what makes people cry. That or the trigger, because I'm shooting faster than 2 rounds a second with a combat machine. I have an adapter from Dean's, from JST to Dean's, and then I use a 7.4 1200 milliamp, so it lasts a long time for the HPA system. So it is a V12, and it does have some upgrades. I've got the Tap Airsoft blade trigger. I did cut it down because I really only want 2 fingers on there. I have a integrated grip connect, which I had to modify that to fit the base plate. I have a red nozzle in there that I cut myself. I cut it down to the right length, but Tap Airsoft does sell a 3D printed plastic nozzle for the MP5, just like the SR25, but I just kind of hacked it and did the I shortened the nozzle. That was actually before they had made the 3D printed nozzle. And in fact, the 3D printed selector plate for the MP5, this was the first one. Literally, Tap Airsoft made it, and then I was the first person to try it before they even tried it. So it got delivered to me, and I had to make some adjustments to it, and I told them what I needed to adjust, and apparently they changed it in the file, and so apparently I was like the trial run, I guess, even though I had to pay full price for it. But it worked out totally fine, and went together just fine. It is a stock poppet with the red nozzle, but I do have a QEV, so it is a little bit more efficient. I run 80 PSI, and it shoots 350 with a .2. 2 5s get 1.25 joules. I use 2 5s, and the 100 round mid caps. It is set for 30 rounds a second, which is decent. You know, it's a decent number since they only hold 100 rounds. I used to shoot 35, and I was like, I'm just going to lower it to 30, especially because it's loud. People love to crap their pants. But that's like the fastest I can ever shoot. That. Like, I'll sit here and go like that, and some people get upsetty spaghetti about that, but I can get into it if I want. But it like maxes at 15 rounds a second. This is not the new firmware, so it doesn't have binary. Honestly, I think binary is stupid. I really do. I like standard semi-spam. Like spamming my trigger on semi-auto, because it's 1 shot per trigger pull, which is true semi-auto. But people still get triggered. Anyways, pretty nice full auto. Pretty solid. So, I have a warm spot in my heart for this gun because it has made so many people mad. It's so funny, like, simply how the attachments on my gun or the way that I play can trigger people so hard that they have to complain to refs or field owners, or even just honestly just cry to themselves. Next gun is my dual sector gear. One of my dual sector gears. This is my 50 rounds a second dual sector gear. So it hits 50. It does a little under 350 with a .2. Unfortunately, the spring's broken in. I think that's a little unfortunate because I tuned it. It was like 355. Which is perfect, and then it broke in. So I haven't changed it. I do use high caps and .25s, especially for like indoor. It's very consistent. I have a Pro One Crytac inner barrel with a Lonex bucking, and then it's S-hopped. And with 2 5s, it really is consistent. Range-wise, I'd say only 180, maybe 170 feet, but if you're within that, you're done. Like, this thing shoots very good. Again, 50 rounds a second. Parts-wise, SHS piston, Metarack piston. It has a Lonex gearbox shell. It's got some VFC compression parts, SHS DSG, SHS 16-1 spur and bevel. It's got Matrix Lonex steel bushings. It's got the SHS M150 spring, which I think I cut. That's why it kind of broke in, unfortunately. So it shoots about 340 with the 2 now. I have a ASG 30K boost motor, BTC Spectre Mark II Bluetooth with a retro arm straight trigger, very short trigger pull, just ever so slight like play, and then just the button. Again, the Lonex gearbox shell fits smoothly in here. I did have a 40K motor, and then I switched to the 30K because the trigger response is a little bit more snappy. The rate of fire dropped a little bit, but this thing was up there with the 40K. So with no delay on full auto, I'm getting 50. So that's exactly where I want it. 50 rounds a second is the max I would ever play with. So I have a 1800 milliamp 40 to 50C battery in here. I do need to get another one of these. I've had this for like 2 years. Semi-auto. I mean, and that is with no pre-cocking. It's cycle completion. I think the active braking's on minimum, like the lightest setting. Oh, and it just full auto. So I think DSGs are just one of the best options for indoor use because you don't have to deal with the hose of the HPA, but if you build it right, you're going to get HPA trigger response, or hecka close, kind of like this gun. Next, we have my Ares Amoeba. I've had this thing forever. As far as upgrades, it's got a Action Army 30K motor. It's got the Siege Tech 10-to-1 spur and bevel with a Lonex modified with the magnet sector. So the stock sector broke, and then I took the magnet out and put it in a Lonex. It is full stroke with a M110. It is shooting lower FPS than it should, and I've never really gotten to fix it. I've tried multiple things, and it just doesn't take it. It does shoot 330 FPS, so it is 1 joule with a .2, and this is a pure indoor gun. The only time I would ever use this outdoors if I can use full auto, because if I'm shooting 1 joule and I'm using 2s, I'm at a huge disadvantage outdoors. So the full auto would come in handy. There's no delay on the semi-auto. This is an 11-1. It's a 2600 milliamp that I modified to fit the stock. It's a 3-part, and I had to drill out the inside. It actually was a pain. But very good trigger response. I love it. This gun is very, very old, short trigger pull mod. Other upgrades like SHS metal rack piston, again an M110 spring. It does have steel bushings in it because the bearings that were in here are blue. I have a Lonex hop-up bucking with a G&G hop-up unit and a stock inner barrel. It only shoots about 170, 180 feet, kind of like the DSG, short barrel DSG that I have. Full auto. Oh, battery's dying. I'm going to charge this battery right now. I can tell it's about to die. Arguably my favorite gun, my Valken V12, the Give Them the 40 original OG. Pro 1 hop up with a Orga wide bore, S-hopped with the Lonex bucking. I have a red low flow poppet. I have a red nozzle, QEV valve, and short trigger pull mod with a Tap Airsoft, what do they call this? The cut face trigger in blue, and then a grip connect. Now this gun I have set for 45 rounds a second. I do use full auto. If the field ever complains and they whine and complain about it, I will turn it to 3-round burst. But I won't lower the rate of fire. I'll switch it to 3-round burst so it's a quick burst, like burp, 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 because it's actually pretty cool. I actually like the burst. Burp, burp, burp. It's pretty freaking cool. I know I sound like an idiot trying to make the sound. Here, I'll just let you hear it in real life. I run this at 85 PSI or 80. I think it's 85, and it gets me 350 with a .2. I use 2.5s and high caps, which is 1.25 joules with the 2.5s, and again 45 rounds a second. It is louder with ammo, I will say that, but I can lay into it and full auto. So this is what makes everybody so mad. At least at Warden, everyone cried. It's amazing how one person with one gun can literally just ruin everybody's day. I don't get it. I don't get how people let one person just make them so upsetty spaghetti that they need to ban stuff. It's pathetic is what it is. But my rant aside, this gun is awesome. So I don't think I missed anything. Bunch of upgrades on the internals. It's about as efficient as a Polar Star Jack. Straight up. This will be as efficient as a Polar Star Jack because of all those upgrades and all the tuning that I've done. And it shoots about 200 feet with the 2.5s. Even on full auto. 45 rounds a second, they just sail. Alright, moving on to my last gun that is not for sale. None of these are for sale. This is the King Arms PDW 9mm. It uses the MP5 mags. This is also a dual sector gear. This is the last gun that I built. I kind of took a break from Airsoft. I haven't played, so I haven't built any guns for myself, but I will be building another HPA gun for myself this summer. It's going to be pretty cool. I don't have the style gun yet, and I've always had a warm spot for them because I've used to own a couple. So it's going to be another HPA gun, which is pretty cool, but I won't do that until this summer because I've been buying a lot of real gun stuff, and I go shoot real guns, my firearms, almost every weekend. So I spend like a lot on ammo. I really do. The battery that I use in this gun is the same 2000 milliamp brick. It is a 15 to 25C, which is pretty low for DSG, but this is a low speed DSG, or I would call it mid speed. Fits right back there perfectly fine. Just a absolute perfect fit. I do have a Troy rail on here. Other than that, on the AAC muzzle brake. Other than that, it's stock on the outside. Pretty cool gun overall, pretty unique. The last time I went and played, I did use this. I did wear my big knee brace so I wouldn't hurt myself, and I had fun. It was pretty cool, but I only played like, it was like 4 games or so. I played 6. I think I played until lunch, so I actually did pretty decent that day. But anyways, internally wise, it has the ASG 30K motor. It's got a BTC Spectre Mark II, favorite MOSFET, Bluetooth, just the best system on friggin' planet Earth. These MOSFETs are just glorious. I have 1, 2, 3 personal in my guns. 3 of them. All Bluetooth Spectre Mark II. Other internals, basic for DSG, it's the, SHS motor rack piston, SHS DSG. There's 16 to 1, 18 to 1. I definitely use 18 to 1 SHS spur and bevel for this. And then I'm actually using the stock bearings. They're like these caged bearings or whatever they call them. They're actually really nice. And they're 7mm and it's held up totally fine. The barrel bucking and hop up is all stock, believe it or not. Stock gearbox shell. I am running the stock trigger. It shoots 370 with it is the 160. It's shooting 370 with a .2. I use 2.5s, which is about 1.3 joules with 2.5s, I think is what this was getting. So nothing crazy. Good for outdoor, decent. Nothing crazy hard, and some indoor fields would allow this too. So pretty nice gun. Semi-auto on it. Louder. It really is louder. I have a sorbo pad on that one and not this one. Plus it's a 160 on this. But trigger response is perfect. I have light active braking and I actually have 5 milliseconds pre-cocking. So I have it slightly pre-cocked and the trigger response is just, especially for a budget build, guys. Like, I spent not very much on this gearbox. I had the BTCs laying around, but I get those at dealer cost too, so I did not spend much on the internals on this. Full auto. So this is a full charge because I just charged this battery like this week. So full charge, it gets 37 rounds a second, and then when it's starting to die, it gets like 34. So an average is 35. That's just what I say. 35 rounds a second, give or take, because it's an AEG. Same thing with my other DSG, like almost dead, it's probably 47, 48, and then full, it's like 51 right off the charger. So you get what I'm saying. It's about 35, and again, 370 with the 2. And it shoots almost 200 feet. I'd say about probably 180, kind of like my other DSG. But love this gun. Again, this was the latest gun that I built. Very happy with it. So if you have any questions or anything, let me know, and I'll see you on the next video.